Today on Producer Points, we're set to dive into the studio life of a dynamic music producer and songwriter who's been behind some of the most compelling tracks in recent pop music. His portfolio boasts collaborations with the talents like JP Saxe, Sabrina Carpenter, GAYLE, and Lauren Spencer Smith, among many others. Known for his knack for blending heartfelt melodies with modern pop sensibilities, he crafts songs that resonate deeply with listeners. As we explore his journey, we'll uncover the creative processes and stories behind these collaborations. Get ready to be inspired by the experiences and insights of this versatile music maestro. Join us for an enlightening session with the incredibly talented Ryan Marrone. Dude, thank you so much for being here.
Dude, thank you. That's like the kindest introduction in the world.
So I have this thing where I'm very big on, like Christmas cards or birthday cards.
Okay.
Where I will, when it's a friend or a family member, I'll write. It's something that I've just been doing my whole life.
I enjoy it. It's something that I picked up later in life, I think. But just really making sure you're picking the right words that mean the thing that you are trying to say, and being endearing. I love rewriting people's stuff. If someone brings me something I wrote this card, or a college application.
There's nothing worse, and I'm probably going to upset someone in my family or my wife's family, but it's I'm not a huge fan of when someone just picks out a card and then just writes their name at the end of it.
Yeah, the point of a card is
it's write me
you
something.
can skip the thing that they wrote.
Yeah. So anyway, that's just a more, but anyway, but the point being, I wanted to bring that part of myself into the pod. And I get to talk to people whom I most of the time know really well and whom I admire. And, it was my very selfish way to talk to people whom processes I want to learn and dig in deep and then share that information with any Joe Schmo on the street.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's got to just be fun to have an hour and a half conversation with anyone about.
Yeah.
Because I also feel we're all separated from each other.
Yes.
It's I've got my little thing going on where people come through my revolving door, but then to you and elsewhere. And it's we rarely get to.
I think it's the difference between songwriters and producers where songwriters all work with each other for the most part.
Yeah.
There's people who you don't vibe with because they do different genres or whatever. But producers, it's really hard to get in a room with someone who you admire because, it's hard to have two producers in a room and your team doesn't always book you like that. And I'm usually working with other producers once I've written the track and I want to bring someone in after.
100%.
And that's just the thing. So there's so many producer friends who I have who it's we're buddies. We've never worked.
Yeah, no, it's hard to find people you just production wise can vibe in a room where it's in the incubation period of the song.
Yeah. It's, and I work with, because I shared a studio with David Arkwright for a long time and we were co-producing a lot, but even during the day, I was usually behind the board or there were times where he was too, but we're mostly writing that day. And that's where I find you can get along with co-producers where it's cool, we're just going to write today.
Right.
And we'll geek out.
And one person can manage steer the ship.
Yeah. Although I've had a couple great sessions in K-pop camps.
Okay.
Where they'll put 2 or 3 producers in a room. And I've found a good vibe, especially working with Ableton with their link system.
Okay.
Have you used that yet?
I haven't.
Oh, dude, it's really cool. So I'm in Ableton and I eventually finish everything in Pro Tools. But Ableton has this link thing where I think it works with Logic too. It definitely works with Pro Tools, where through Wi-Fi, it'll link everyone up and it keeps everyone in sync.
Actually?
Yes.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah. So it's
So you're all looking at the same session and
we're in our own sessions. But if you're putting, I can be playing the beat on my laptop.
Okay.
And you can work on your laptop either in headphones or on your speakers and it'll be in sync and you can add parts.
Oh, that's crazy.
Oh, it's actually a really fun way to work.
That sounds fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just buy Ableton once every 4 years. And then I'm okay, man, we're going to do it. And I just don't.
But because you're in Pro Tools, right? Yeah. So you can do it if someone comes over and they work in Ableton, you can do Ableton link through Pro Tools.
Okay.
It's really cool. I've done it a handful of times.
That sounds fun.
It's a lot of fun, especially in these K-pop sessions where it's there's so many people in the room where it's usually it's been 2 producers and 3 writers. So it's really a separated thing.
Well, and I haven't done like too much of that, but like my attitude usually in those rooms, it's like, oh no, like let's just do all the things.
Oh yeah.
Like put all the bells and whistles. Oh, you got an idea? Throw it in there. Like, you want to switch up?
There's no rules.
Do it. Yeah.
And I think it's like, I couldn't do that every day, but like I'll do K-pop sessions like, or camp every couple months, or like a K-pop session like once every like 2 weeks or something, and like just to like switch it up from working with artists, and it's fun just to like do the weird things that you normally wouldn't do.
For sure.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun. I want to know your background, like how you got started, you know, the whole thing. So like wherever you want to start, like was music in the family, or what was that?
No, not really. So like, I mean, my oldest brother played the piano. So I was like, oh, I want to play the piano. So like I learned, and I don't know, from there it was pretty much like, it was like a part of my life, but not the biggest part of my life.
Right.
Because I mean, we kind of grew up as like, you know, school and played sports and did music and all this stuff. But like,
where were you guys growing up?
Las Vegas.
Okay.
But I think, I mean, so got like probably 8th grade, learned to play guitar. I was like listening to a lot of like shitty SoCal punk music. Like that was my thing. You know, I was playing in a band in high school, and then that just like, at some point I had stopped playing piano. Learning guitar made me fall back in love with piano. And then like the band was like, we need to like record these songs. So I think I got my first like 8-track digital recorder. We like set up in my bedroom, and I was like, oh, this is awesome. But then I like broke my back my junior year of high school.
Oh.
And so that was kind of like, soccer kind of went, you know, got pushed to the side a little bit. But yeah, then I came out here to go to school, and like, again, I didn't know I wanted to be a producer. I feel like this information wasn't available. This is the thing that I find so funny, like people around our age, did you think you were a producer when you were doing that with the band? No, not like, I mean, I didn't even know like what we do existed. Right. Like I knew like on the back of the album it said like producer. So like, sure, maybe I was like, but it wasn't my thought. I was just like, we're just recording this stuff. No, I asked because I had the same thing where I was the producer of my band. I thought, I guess so. Like I was like picking how we set stuff up. But I mean, it was like, I think at some point I'd gotten Pro Tools, and like, you know, again, there weren't like tutorials. So like, I don't know, I just like set up some tracks and did a thing. And was like, all right. Yeah. But then when I went to college, just a friend of mine, you know, I was playing the piano, and he was like, oh, that'd be a sick beat. And I was like, cool, like, let's do it. So I go over to his apartment, and he was on like FL, and, you know, like made a beat out of it. And I was like, that's the coolest thing I've ever done. So then, you know, I'd just like make beats in college, and like my friends would freestyle over them. Yeah. Were you going to college for music? Yeah, I was at USC for like the music industry program. Cool. But again, that was like at the time, and I think it's changed a lot now. It was like a survey course. It was just like, oh, a little publishing, a little in the studio, a little this. So like everything kind of came from whatever you wanted to pursue. Right. So yeah, then like senior year, I interned at Atlantic Records. Okay. And so that was it was like under Mike Heron. So my friend Alex Schwartz, who's now in the Futuristics, and they've done pretty well. Alex was Mike's assistant at the time. So I interned for Alex, and like, you know, Aaron Baisha, I think had just signed Bruno or something. Okay, that. Yeah. And I just remember like, you know, speed through some stuff, but like one day Alex was just like, oh shit. And I was like, oh, what's wrong? And he's like, our engineer canceled. And I was like, I'll do it. Yeah. He's like, oh, you could do it? I'm like, yeah, sure. So they sent me over to Paramount, and I like sit down, and JP, who was their engineer at the time, was just like, hey, here's the template. Like some guys came in, wrote like 2 songs that day, and I recorded, and it sounded fucking awesome. And I was just like, yeah, this is what I want to do. Yep. And just kind of chased it from there. And I mean, I worked with a partner for like 5 years, and we were doing predominantly like hip hop and R&B, and like, you know, had some like relatively successful moments in there. But at some point I didn't love the music I was making, and we were just doing okay. And like just didn't feel sustainable. It's like, at least if I'm going to be broke, let me like love the music.
Yes.
So I almost I kind of just dipped to clear my head for 4 months. Took my GMAT, was going to go get an MBA. Because I was just hey, I don't want to be poor and hating the music that I make. That just doesn't.
I mean, that's how I felt for a while when I was living in Buffalo before my band made it. I was just recording local acts, and I was it was fun, but I thought for a second, I was I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. This isn't fun for me.
Yeah.
And then luckily things took off, but I think that's how a lot of people feel sometimes.
And I think I'd met my wife toward the end of that partnership with that guy, and it was just I might be capable of more than this, and just my priorities changed. So it just got to a point where I was finally okay, if I'm going to do this, it's going to be such a simple decision. Just, do I like this? Don't I?
Right.
Does this make me happy? Is this the person who I want to work with? Would I rather go on a hike or do this session? And it's do the sessions. Cool.
Talk about advice I wish I got so much sooner.
Yes.
Too, right?
Yeah, because it's just do the thing that you are most excited to do.
Yeah.
There are 3 pieces of advice that would have saved me 5 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'm hearing you talk. I'm yep. Just work with people whom you love. I wish I found that out after 6 months of being in LA.
Yeah, I was just chasing. Because I kind of felt and I think partially because of my first exposure to this being in the in that Atlantic system where it's a certain type of writing.
Yes.
I was just oh, I'm not going to be able, this part of the music industry is so far away from the bands I grew up on and that kind of stuff that maybe that's just a different thing. So I was okay, I'll do this. And, it took me a while to just find my people.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing that, everyone who moves out to LA or even Nashville doing music has to have that first probably year, if not 2, of just working with anyone who will work with you, and you have to, they call it the songwriting dating or the sessioning, right? Where you just have to do it. It sucks. But then when you find your people, I try and encourage people where it's cool, you have 10 people that you love working with. Keep hitting on that.
Absolutely.
Keep hitting on that button. Sometimes people's teams, they just I don't know, it's almost they're a machine where they're well, so-and-so has new people that you should work with. And I'm not saying you shouldn't work with new people.
No, but it's just well, opportunity. It's no, dig a little deeper with someone. Just because once you can get to that, I don't know, that just coveted, beautiful flow with someone where so I was with Sarah Troy today, and I have 0 stress before the session, 0 during, 0 after. You're just oh, today's going to be so fun. And getting to go into work with that mentality just yields better results no matter what.
Yeah. It's so much harder to write a great song, let alone a hit, with people you just met that day. Can it happen? Of course it can happen.
Yeah, for sure.
But I don't know about you, but my batting average is so much higher with people that I work with a lot than with randos.
Yeah, for sure. Or just or when you meet someone, you're I'd go have a beer with you.
Exactly.
We'd be friends. It's well, then you're oh, this is fun.
Yeah.
Just as much as you can, the more I can turn my brain off, the better.
Yeah. And that's the thing too, where, I try really hard when I first work with people to create a really relaxed vibe and have that first hour to just talk and relax. I can't do the thing where people walk into my studio, say hi, how you doing, and they want to start writing within 5 minutes.
Oh, there's just no chance.
No, and some people can do that. I can't. That's not how my brain works. I need to know you to figure you out a little bit.
Yeah.
So I can adapt as a producer to understand how to work with you and make that best version of you. And
for sure, because I think it's more than anything, it is that how you manage that personal relationship. So you got to figure out how is this person going to react when I say a certain thing? What is their just general demeanor? Are they confident? Are they, introverts or extroverts?
Yeah. This is really funny actually, because I have on my little note here something I wanted to talk about and we're leading to it, so I want to just get to it. It's being honest in a session.
Yeah.
Because I think something about a lot of your work that I really admire is everything in your records, whether they're the slow emotional songs or the more upbeat things or the really bopping records, is everything feels really honest, and that it sounds like you put a bunch of time into everything. And what's some advice, or what are things that you do when you're working with artists? How do you balance not upsetting someone and telling them what you think honestly, where you're like, oh, I don't like how you sing that, how do you find that balance?
Well, I don't know. I mean, in terms of actual like getting someone to perform a certain way, like right. I don't think about that too much. I almost find if you can just like, and I say this now being lucky enough to like work with people who right. are great singers and great performers and know the difference between a good take and a bad take.
Yeah.
So like I will be different in a different session.
Right.
It's rare though that I have to work with a singer that like
needs a lot.
Yeah. It's more like, okay, how do I just create the most comfortable environment for this person to perform their best? And sometimes that's as simple as like what their headphone mix is.
Yep.
And like maybe you're hearing bad take after bad take or like tuning issues or whatever. And sometimes it's as simple as that. Yeah. Or just like, sometimes someone's not singing well. Tell them they're doing great. I like working with artists where like their art is their life and their life is their art. And it's like very, very important to them. So like that person's not going to share that part of themselves with you again.
Right.
If you've made them feel at all like it's not the right space for them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
like you're there just to like,
you're a facilitator.
Yeah, you're a facilitator.
And just to make them feel comfortable. Yeah, it's...
And then in a room with more people, I think you're managing personalities and you're as much of a psychiatrist as you are anything else.
Yeah, one of the most difficult things I've had to navigate sometimes is there's like another songwriter in the room where a lot of the time songwriters have incredible notes. Yes. And then there's times where it's like, oh man, this songwriter is pissing off the artist right now.
Yeah.
With their good advice, but they're not saying it in the best way. Has that ever happened to you?
Sure. Or where they're just in the way and it's just not working. I mean, that happens in writing sessions too, where it's like, two people are just like, we're here. And like the other person, you're just not matching up taste wise.
Right.
So I don't know. I mean, some of those,
they're tough.
Some of those days are just tough and awkward and that's what they are. But like, I don't know. I've found like power in just being honest in those situations and being the person who will communicate and say like, even if I maybe send the writer a text or something and be like, hey, just give us a minute. Like, just give a minute. Like, I think she's getting thrown off a little bit or whatever. And I think that's like, why waste anyone's time?
Yeah. That's a great way to do it. Like sending the text to them.
Dave Pensato told me a long time ago,
Yeah.
He was like, I think I had asked him like, well, how do you like, what do you do? Like, how do you be like critical of someone? And he's like, don't think of it as being critical of someone. Think of it as you trying to like make a better life for them and their future families.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, cool. So I'm trying to help them.
Yeah.
So like, at that point you just need to have some tact in the way that you say that, which, back to the hour before the session, like knowing someone allows you to navigate that session a little more clean.
Yeah. I think the whole point of like this like conversation where what I wanted to get to is producers learning that being an effective communicator is honestly the most valuable tool in sessions.
You're in charge of the room. You're the coach.
Yeah.
You're the back office. Like you got to figure it out. And every day's different. Like truly. And I think in life, I'm kind of able to get along with pretty much anyone. Yeah. Like, and I think that helps. But I'm also like, particularly in music, I'm very picky. Like I know what my taste is. Like I know when I like it and I know when I don't, and my face can't lie.
Yep.
Like I got that from my mom. Like someone will say something, oh, what do you think? Sorry, I already said it with my face.
I'm
like,
such a horrible liar.
Yeah.
And I can't do it. And like,
so now I just don't for the most part. I'll be like,
yeah. It's like, I think we
can do a little better.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's honestly
and a lot of times you see like relief in the room. People like, we probably couldn't we?
Dude, so often. I'm very happy I turned into this guy because at first I really shut it off. But being the person in the room to be like, maybe we start a new one, guys. I don't know if this thing is happening.
100%.
And everyone, like you said, having that immediate relief, like, thank fucking God.
Well, I think we have more on the line, though, because it's like, I'm looking at it like, okay, I have today and potentially 2 more days to turn the song around if I really want to get it right. Sometimes it's quicker, sometimes longer, whatever. But I'm like, I don't want to work on that song.
Yeah.
Very selfishly. Like,
oh, no. And
I won't be good working on a song that I don't like.
No.
That's the other thing I realized that saved me time is just like, I can't work on shit I don't like.
No, and I won't. I will like do top line versions. Where I'll just piano vocal, where it's like I have no interest in producing the song, and it could just be that it's not a good song. Or
but like out of respect for us, have spend a day doing this.
Yeah,
like either that or I'll just at some point in the session be like, maybe we'll just.
It's saved. We'll do a save. Open it up again later if we want to.
Yeah,
it's not going anywhere. That's the one thing I have to say sometimes with people who were like, it's a 4-person room and one person is like, oh, I don't know, I really like it. And I'm like, well, it's there. We can always go back to it.
Totally.
We have our voice memos. We have the track.
Yeah,
I don't delete anything. I promise you. That's fucking great. So talking about making people feel comfortable, one of the things that we talk about on the podcast, and I think most, if not all producers really love, is food.
Okay.
And I don't know about you, but I am so food obsessed. But in a session, let's say you guys are going to go out for lunch or someone's in from out of town, where are you taking them or where are you recommending they go eat?
So if I'm in the Valley, I'm always going to go to Coinga General Store. Okay. Do you know that spot?
No.
Oh, dude, it's like the best. It's this like weird little sandwich spot that's like an old prop shop.
What are you getting there?
Muffaletta. I'm a big Muffaletta fan. I'm up in Altadena, so like, and once we moved up there, like, I've been cooking a ton, which like I've done for a long time, but like,
do you do all the cooking at home or most of it?
For the most part,
I do all the cooking here.
Yeah, but I like cooking. I pride myself on it. So, and I think there's like
it's a producer thing.
It's really similar to music in the way of you're just like kind of combining flavors. And
are you like me, where when I cook and it's like something I've never cooked before, I'll look up like a couple recipes and then I'll be like, all right, I got it. And then just like go from there.
Sometimes I think I'll usually, if it's something like a technique or something that I haven't done, like if I make something once, I can kind of understand the components or how it's put together, and then I can like do that again. Or you notice if you're cooking something else, like, oh, when I made that, like I learned this thing and that's why this isn't working out. But I really like it. But I'll say there's like Roma Deli up by us, which like has the sandwich called The Sandwich, and like there's a line of probably 25 people out the door like every day, all day. It's like a Italian sandwich. It's literally like bread, meat, and maybe cheese and like olive oil, and it's just so good.
It's got good bread.
Just really good, just good everything. Like this place just imports everything from Italy. So we go there to get our tomato sauce. We go there to get like our dough to make pasta.
I've been here. I know what I'm talking about. Yes.
Like the owner is like this 96-year-old guy who sits out front. Yeah,
I've had the sandwich. Yes,
so that's always good.
Yeah.
There's so many good like little Mexican spots that are like, easy up tent on the corner. There's like a pastor place around the corner from us that is just so good.
That's like one of my favorite things about living in LA?
Yeah.
Is I've always lived within walking distance to a great taco spot.
Oh, for sure.
And I never want to not be able to
have that. Yeah, I'm trying to think anything else. There's a sushi place in Sierra Madre I'll usually send people to.
Right.
It's called Wii.
Okay.
Like Y-U-I. Maybe that's how you pronounce it. But there's like 8 tables.
Okay, so...
And it's not crazy expensive. It's just like
is it reservation only or first come first serve? Or
no, it's quiet. Like you can probably get a reservation any night, anytime.
And you just go, okay.
And it's really good.
All right.
But I could.
I like it up there in Sierra Madre too.
Oh, yeah, it's like a charming little mountain town.
Yeah, I think places like that. This is a good conversation for producers too, right? Where there's like Altadena, Sierra Madre, like all these places that seem far, where miles wise they're a little bit farther than certain places, but you avoid a lot of the bullshit traffic to get there, to have people come to you for sessions.
For sure. I mean, even like, from mid-city, it'll take someone like 45 minutes, which, I'm constantly considerate of that and will always be, thankful to people for driving out to me. But like, it's also 45 minutes from like mid-city to Venice.
Oh, yeah.
So, and from Studio City, you can get there in like 25 minutes.
Yeah, it's not that bad. But like...
And that's like also back to like that I need to take care of my own peace of mind. And like, I'm happy there. I have mountains right by me. People will come out, we'll go on a hike before sessions.
Yeah.
And like,
that's awesome.
It's nice.
Obviously, JP is someone who I'm assuming, work with the most now.
Yes.
And I'm a big fan of his music. I know we're going to have listeners that are going to listen to this podcast because of him and through you. So I wanted, like, how'd that relationship get started? So
it's probably like 7, maybe 8 years ago. It's a publisher friend of mine, Tiffany Starr, who used to like, was my point person at Primary Wave.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, she was just like, I want to introduce you to like 2 people, these 2 writers who I think are really cool. And one of them was this girl, Desi, and one of them was JP. And she played me his music and I was like, that's fucking awesome. And so we started working together. And I mean, at the beginning, it was mostly like he would come in and write anytime I could get like an artist session where I was like, this is like a big session. Like I'd pull JP in because I was like, just gets it every time. And really, like from the first time I met him, I was like, you're the best lyricist that I know. I mean, and just like my type of lyrics. Like it was really like saying the things he felt. It didn't feel coded up.
Nope.
It just felt like
that's
emotions
what
communicated in such a beautiful way. And like, and I've derived so much of like my own writing style, not that I'm anything near JP in that fashion, but like just my taste, a lot of that has come from working with him.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, we started doing that and then like maybe 6 months or a year in, he was just playing me some stuff and he was like, I want to do my artist stuff too, and played me a couple songs and it was just
no brainer.
All of the songs you were just like, oh my God, like that's amazing. He played me the few things basically in its entirety. We worked on like a post lyric and like this. It's like for the most part, JP is
like he had that kind of ready to go.
In general, he is writing 97% of his songs. Right. I mean, here and there, more, but like so much of his identity is packed into it. And I'll probably get lost here, but like he journals and writes from that.
Oh, okay.
So it's like, it's truly lyric first. It's like you'd show up at breakfast and be like, I wrote this the other day. And it's like, that's so cool. And then it's to the studio and figure out what the chords are like. And so, I mean, from there, I think another thing I really learned was like how to produce around songs, because he'd play these songs and my approach up until that point was like some form of like a loop-based producer.
Right.
Like, there was the exception, but a lot of it was like beats and this thing gets flown here.
That's what so much pop music was around that time too.
Yeah.
It was every session was a loop.
Right.
And I'm so happy I don't write like that anymore.
Yeah, so I think it took us a minute to figure out that like his music just needed that the through line necessary was him just playing an instrument.
Yeah.
And like, the few things, it was like there were a lot of versions of that song.
Yeah. It's funny. So I'm glad we're getting it, because this is one of the songs that I wanted to talk about. So we're just naturally getting right into it. So I'm going to do a quick introduction of it, where this is JP Saxe, A Few Things. Charlotte Lawrence eventually came on to do the collab
duet version,
which I mean, she has one of my favorite voices in all of
She sounds so good on that too.
But so I want to hear about this. There's a lot of different versions of it.
Yeah, lots of different versions, because it was just like versions where more loops, more program stuff, more whatever, and it just we'd turn around and he'd play it on the piano and it's like, no, that's not emotionally, that doesn't hold up emotionally.
Right.
That makes me feel something that feels like it's trying.
Yeah.
And it was just like searching for the thing that felt the most. And what it turned out to be was like, JP just started playing guitar. We found a cool tone and it was like, that's the life of the record right there.
Yeah. Do you remember was that like a DI guitar that you
it's so it's a Les Paul through the Marshall Plexi.
Yep.
The like this.
Great plugin. Yeah.
Is it that one? Yeah, like Super Lead, the Plexi. Yeah. The UAD one.
Yep.
With the AKG Spring Reverb, the UAD one.
Yep.
And I still use that tone. That is
why wouldn't you?
Like very little gain, like amp basically turned down, and it's just like, oh, it's wonderful. That AKG Spring Reverb is my jam.
Oh, yeah. The one thing I hate is it's pretty CPU heavy. Otherwise, I love it.
Well, yeah. No, you get like 2 of them on a quad,
and that's it. it's
dude, that stuff is so annoying.
I know. I'm hoping they release that one on the what's it called, the UADX, the
native ones.
Yeah, so,
yeah. I need to download those.
Yeah, it's been worth it. Because if you own it, you have it on that. It's
right.
Like you don't need to get an additional Spark thing.
It just requires me to like go do some more stupid license.
Yes, it's just annoying. You have to.
But all my favorite UAD plugins, other than the Moog filters, are super CPU intensive. Yeah. Like the Culture Vulture.
Yep.
I'm just like, oh, there goes my whole CPU.
Yeah. And I would use. I mean that guy lives on my mix bus.
Oh really?
Yep. Just the default
just a
setting.
Little. Oh really? Just a little kiss.
Yeah. I have to like bring down the output a little bit because it gains it, but it's just like a little
I gotta try that.
Just a little bit. I like it. It's something I picked up.
Lead vocal for me.
Yes, it's that I'll use it every once in a while, but I'm getting enough like through my chain. I'm getting enough like harmonic saturation now where like I only needed it if like the singer didn't have enough of that and I want a little bit more.
Exactly.
But otherwise it did live on my vocal for a long time. So I love that fucking plugin.
Also there's like the late night drums preset.
Yeah.
That's the jam.
That's good. And I'll use that in the console a lot. I've spoken about this on the podcast before, but just as like a ad lib kind of thing for like certain songs where it's like, just have fun. Here's a ton of distortion.
Yeah, I'll throw a guitar amp on there too.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Okay, but back to the few things.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say is that production, I mean, not to pat you on the back here too much, but I have a very vivid memory when I first heard that song and I was like, damn, this production is like pretty near perfect. Where it like captured that emotion, those drums, that was one of my questions is, I don't know if you remember, like, they feel, obviously they're samples, but they feel more organic based than
I don't remember necessarily. I mean, I think that's kind of my taste in general is like whatever rides that line of like, is this organic or is it a little different than that? But and I always like those kind of like analog drum machine sounding drums. So it might even be a layer where I have like, you know, a 707 kind of thing mixed with like a live tom.
That's what it sounds like because it's that really, it's what I love. It's my taste too. This perfect balance of like it's a sample layered with something that feels human.
Yeah.
And then the pocket that you put in there where like certain hits are so late.
And that's all just moved around.
Yeah. Oh, but it's perfectly moved around.
Yeah. That's I love just like, I think drums on the grid are.
Yeah. No, it's a killer.
Best. I wish Pro Tools would show a grid that was swung. This is my main Pro Tools note.
Yeah, just like
if you could see the grid and have your based on the quantize that you want.
That'd be cool. That's a good note. Pro Tools, you have a million other things to do first, but please do that.
But that one was fun because I feel like that song was like a learning process too.
Yeah.
And it changed my life for sure. I remember we woke up and it was like number 3 or 4 on New Music Friday. Yeah. And I think JP was still an independent artist at the time. And we were like, holy shit.
It's a big song. One thing I wanted to talk about that song was obviously Charlotte jumping on. And I think it's something that not all producers get to do so often is a song is released and then another artist wants to jump on. You have to like almost reproduce it. Yeah. Around. What was that process kind of like? How did she, I don't know if you know the behind the scenes stuff.
I mean, she and JP were friendly, and I think I think we were looking to like give the song another life again because that song still felt like, you know, it did really well like independently, but it just felt like it maybe had more legs than it initially did. So I think she loved the song, and I think maybe they sang it once together or something, and we were like, oh yeah, let's do this. So I remember I was, where was I working? You know that studio complex on like Cahuenga? It's like Cahuenga and Chandler.
Probably if I saw it.
The worst place. Okay. It's just like so much bass, rooms right next to each other. So anyway, we did it there, and it was just fun. It's easy. Like we were talking about earlier, like that's JP. Like, you know, he's one of my closest friends. Right. At this point, he's like godfather of my children. Like we're just hanging and making music with friends. So like, you know, you adapt to Charlotte's voice. Like she's a little airier, obviously like high voice. So like certain spots, maybe you're pulling production or adding something in. I think we changed the structure of the song a little bit too.
I like re-listened to both versions today.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, these are all like really good choices.
Yeah. Cause I think, is there like an alt verse at the end of the original?
Yeah, well, they were like going back and forth.
We go back to the chorus. Yeah.
Everything was really well. I personally like that version of the song.
The
better.
One with Charlotte?
Yeah, it's because I've had the opportunity to work with her. I am in love with her voice.
And she sounds unreal.
She's such a good singer.
Yeah.
And she just gets on a mic and you're like, all right, that sounds great.
Totally.
Sounds good.
No, and that's back to like the how do I give singers notes? You're like, ideally you're just like,
ideally you don't.
Oh, this is sick.
Yeah.
Want to do that 3 more times?
Yeah. I mean, those are the best. It's just all my favorite artists are the ones that just do the thing. And then my notes are usually like pocket things, or sometimes I like vibrato on certain words and not
totally. Or so often it's like 10% less, 10% more. Just like a little more open, a little more closed.
Yeah. Oh God, that song really, it's so good.
Yeah, I remember JP played it for me.
Yeah,
this is great.
It's a great one, man. And you guys have so many more that we could do a whole 5 hours on it. Just you and JP songs. Next song I want to talk about is another one that you wrote with JP, but you did for Sabrina Carpenter off her most recent album, a song called How Many Things. And it's another song. I mean, this is what happens on songs you do a lot of the time, where I'll hear something, do a lot of like, oh man, that's really good, and then I'll look at the credits and be like, oh, Ryan did it. And this was one of the songs. It was like a very vivid memory. I was getting a tattoo. Do you know Ella Bo? Great songwriter, but she also does tattoos.
Okay.
And the album just came out, and we like listened to it together while the tattoo came out, and How Many Things came out, and I was like, oh, this one hits a little bit different.
Yeah.
It's really good. So what was the writing like with that? What was that story?
So JP had pulled me in. He and Sabrina were doing a lot of stuff.
Right.
So we wrote a couple. I think we wrote like 4 and only one stuck. And Sabrina was just, dude, she was going through a really tough time.
Yeah.
So I think for that particular song, we were at the Woodshed in Malibu, which like had become a special place for us because we finished JP's first album there. We like, spent a week there, rented a place nearby. You know, that place is just the best because it's like every instrument that's sitting around is now my favorite instrument. Like the 12-string there is this like Larrivee 12-string that like...
One of the questions, was that a 12-string guitar?
Yeah, it's a 12-string, yeah. So it's this Larrivee 12-string that we all fell in love with. I ended up getting JP one of those for Christmas that year because I was like, oh, this is... I don't know, same 12-string we used on a bunch of JP's album. So we left it there. But yeah, that guitar is great that's there. There's a couple other acoustics. The piano there's unreal.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she was just going through it. And I mean, so much of this is like JP's songwriting identity. They're just conversations. Like we just show up at noon. We like maybe order some food and just talk like, oh, what's up? And talk for 2 hours. And then JP will be like, yeah, something you said like a little earlier was like this, and like maybe we could do something like that. And then the first line is fun though, because that was like, you know, Sabrina was like, everything I do reminds me of him. You know, it's like, fuck, I can't go anywhere. And we were like, you know, I'm like, oh yeah, you used a fork once. Yeah. Like, oh, it turns out forks are fucking everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's just like finding little ways like that of saying a specific thing that represents something so much bigger, which is indicative of JP's style.
I mean, that's my favorite kind of songwriter, because personally, that's also what I do.
Yeah.
Like, I'm JP in that sense where, like, I'm talking to an artist and I'm just, like, kind of, like, sneakily writing things down. Like, while they're talking, I'm like, you said that and that was really cool.
Yeah, because once you start thinking about the way you want to say it, you kind of lose that.
No. and just like talking is the best thing. And this is what we're saying earlier. It's like those conversations with artists and songwriters are just so important, and where it's man, so many of my favorite lyrics were written just like what you're saying.
Right. And it's not something like I'm never trying to have the conversation for the sake of that. Like it's not like
it has to come up naturally.
Yeah, it's genuine, but like I do think it's also it's a tool in my toolkit, right? It's like, oh no, that is going to be something I'm gonna do.
Yeah. And you like it's just something you just don't turn off.
Right.
Don't turn off.
Exactly.
It's how I live my life, where it's like I have, most songwriters have a concept list or like a line list where someone will say something or something will pop into my head and be like, that's cool. I'm just going to write that down there, I
mean, and just for life, it's like I feel like I talk to quote unquote like normal people, but like the same way that I talk to songwriters, almost to where it's people are caught off guard by it. Because like I'm going to ask you like a real question and like I will give you a real response that is like not filtered or any way. Like I want to know you, like actual you.
I'm like genuinely curious. I want to like figure you out and get to know you.
But no, that song was fun. And I think there were a couple versions production wise of that had more going on. And that was the day of.
Yeah. Okay. That's another one of my questions where, let's see, what exactly did I write? One of those productions where you did just enough and knew when to hold back, really courageous in my opinion, and I stand by that.
Yeah, like did I?
Well,
because there were other versions, and I just think at some point when Sabrina was like, "I want to use it," she's like, "I think that's the version."
Yeah, and like, I think something that keeps coming up in the pod is the power of the mute button.
Oh, dude, like something JP and I do. It's the mute game.
Yep.
It's so fun. You just go through, like, once you kind of get everything there, just going through and start muting stuff. Because sometimes it's something where it's, like, excessive and unnecessary. But, like, other times, all of a sudden, you mute something that's, like, a dramatic change. And all of a sudden, the emotion shifts. Or maybe attention gets pulled to the vocal in a different kind of way. And, like, oh, it's just fun.
It's really, it's easy to do it with someone like Sabrina Carpenter, whose voice is so incredible, and that's just so compelling on its own, but also having the, I guess, lack of ego as a producer to be like, nah, I'm okay with just having this song be a vocal, some acoustic guitars, and whatever other like random little sounds you had in there.
For sure. Like, not that like loop that I spent 2 hours trying to figure out. And like, I'm like, I don't care.
Right.
I want people happy, and I just, I guess at this point I have just no ego, just enough to be like, oh, I have enough ego to think I like, to have taste.
Right.
But like never in terms of individual parts. Cause you just realize that there are too many other components of a song. Like that stuff doesn't matter.
Yeah. One of the other things about that song that struck out from the whole album, and maybe it's because this track is so minimal, but the vocal on that track sounds particularly great. Do you remember what you were recording through?
Yeah, it's the so it's that Soyuz. I'm trying to remember the actual mic. Like Soyuz is like large diaphragm.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know what it's called, but I know what you're talking about.
And then it's this thermionic. Dang, it's one of their pre's too. It has some EQ on it built in. It's like a stereo pre that
was
they
this
make.
Something at the studio?
Yeah, something there that I like. I still keep thinking about buying it, but it's like it's like $5,000.
Yeah,
it might even be a single channel, and I'm just like, ooh. And it's definitely like a saucy pre.
Yeah. No, like, I wrote here, it's like the vocal sounds really perfectly driven.
Yeah, no, it's like rich. I mean, and I doubt there's even, Josh Goodwin mixed the song, but like that's one of the best things about being in the woodshed is you just find yourself doing so little.
Yeah.
Because like the room sounds great, the instruments sound great, the mics sound great, everything just sounds great. So you're just like, oh, this sounds cool. Let's capture that.
I mean, this is the thing that I'm trying to teach in this podcast to people, where it's like, yeah, you can make sick productions with an SM7 and a laptop. Of course, you can make a great sounding vocal, but it's way easier and, in my opinion, more satisfying when you have great gear.
I do think there's a ceiling to it.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yes, that SM7, you can do it, but like the type of recording where it's like, oh, maybe you're going to win a Grammy for like best recording, like there is just a difference if you're on like a vintage 251.
Oh yeah.
Through like
it just does the thing, and this
in a great room.
Yeah, I think this is where, like, again, this is kind of the AI conversation where AI doesn't scare me too much. Where it's like there's just something that the human ear likes, that when it's a real thing, when it's musical, when there's like these rich harmonics that you just get from actual gear that I mean, I'd be awesome if computers can get it to a point like that, but I just don't know.
Totally, and then even more so, I'm just like, it's what I like.
Yeah, right, exactly. It's taste.
It's like, forget whatever. You know what? Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe like, I like it. Yeah. I think there's something special about it.
One of the, I was like scrolling through Instagram or TikTok, and he's a buddy of mine, so it's always awkward to like see a friend on like TikTok and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna watch this, but it was Phineas, and he was talking about taste, and he was like, yeah, like I don't care if that vocal's too compressed, I like it.
Yeah,
like an engineer or someone will tell you that it's like overcompressed or overdriven, but it's like, I like that. Yeah. That's my taste. And I saw that a couple months ago and I was like, right.
No, right. It's like a constant, I feel like it's something I constantly remind myself of, because also I'll hear stuff that I like that someone else did, and I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Like, maybe I should start. And then you're like, no, I like just do the best version of the things I like.
Yeah.
And if what I like today is different from what I like tomorrow, like both are fine, because it's just.
Yeah. I was getting, man, this is like such a recent revelation for me. And mind you, I've been producing, professionally now for, 7, 8, 9 years at this point, where I'm compressing a lot going in the box now.
Yeah.
Where I'll have, I'll work with a writer or a producer in my room, and they'll be like, oh man, you're really hitting your 76. I'm like, yeah. They're like, you're not nervous? I'm like, I like how it sounds.
Well,
like,
right. And worst case, I can volume automate it to make it sound. But like, yeah, I like my compressor more than I like it's why I bought it.
Right.
Like I like it more than I'm going to put plugins on it, and chances are I'm probably going to compress it some more. Yeah. But like, no, my compressor hits, and that's to like vocal
what
performer
are you using as
too.
Compressor now?
It's this like LA2A copy that I bought from Doug Schatt.
Oh,
he was selling his.
Doug's I didn't know you guys knew each other.
Yeah, we know each other through Tall.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, no, he I guess. He was selling it, and I had an Avalon for so long.
Yeah.
So at some point, I have what is that, 1073, like OPX or something? It's like the 8-channel 1073, which like, they're awesome. I don't think they're quite as rich as like maybe a vintage 1073, but I really like it. But I was running that through like the compressor on the Avalon, which like I just hated that thing. I've just sold it on Reverb.
The Avalon, it was like the sound of the
early 2000s.
Yeah. Where like that's the sound, and now it's like I personally don't like that sound. It
just doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
It's I remember the first time I like tried it, and I was like, oh my God, like this sounds so much better than like a direct.
Oh, right.
I was like, oh, this is amazing. But yeah, then you just start figuring out what you like. Right. So no, it's this LA2A copy that like you can just hit it hard, and it's really transparent. It's got a little bit of saturation in it. And
that's what you want.
Like every once in a while, if I get a vocal from someone else, or even like as my last plugin on my vocal, like I'll just send it back out one more time.
Right. Yeah. That's what I mean. Like, that's the thing. It's like, I'll talk to some people where they'll buy, outboard compressors and then just like tap it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, half joking, but half serious, where it's like, why'd you buy it?
Well, totally. And anytime I would, work at a nice studio, and it's like, they'll have an LA2A, like 1176 to LA2A or something, and both are like moving.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, this sounds great.
Yeah. I have, so both of mine are Audioscape. Shout out to I love Audioscape.
You like that stuff?
I think they make incredible stuff. All right. So we're going to move on to the next segment, which is all about gear. It's a fun little segment that we've named Plug or Unplug.
Okay.
Where I'm going to mention a piece of gear. It's a plug-in, hardware, and you just hit me with your gut reaction. Plug if it's something you love and use all the time. Unplug if it's something that you don't really use, you don't like. And Doug Schott actually came up with this bypass. I was going to just say, not sure, but bypass if you haven't used it or you don't know too much about it. Doug actually named this segment, to be fair.
Okay.
And yeah, if you want to go into why you like it.
Yeah, I'm sure there will be tangents.
Yeah. So the first one, Valhalla Shimmer.
Ooh. Plug.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm the same way. I'm back and forth on it.
Yeah, like there are moments where I love it and it does a very specific thing, but like I'm pretty much like a pull that up in default mode if I'm going to use it for that. Like I don't even find that like you can dial it in all that much.
No, and it needs like to be filtered. I'm chasing what this do you ever use it? I have it over there. It's the Line 6. They were like reverb plugin from years ago.
No.
Oh, I gotta go see.
Like the lines, like the pedal.
Yeah, it's all right. I went and got the pedal because I love it so much. This Verbzilla.
Okay.
Pedal. So they don't make it anymore. But this is what I think Valhalla Shimmer was trying to do. They have this thing called Octoverb.
Okay.
On it, and this one sounds the best.
Stereo or
it's stereo in and out, but like I'm too lazy to hook it up.
Okay.
But that's what I'm chasing with Valhalla Shimmer. So often. So great plug, great pedal. I use it a lot. Anyway, Valhalla Shimmer. Yeah, I was just
that one I like. I mean, I think that for me is chasing like a big sky kind of vibe, which like that's a pedal that I always want to get, and then I always just like, I'm like
You use it so rarely.
Right.
The one time you use it and love it, it's like, oh, it's great. But then it's like every other time, it's just like it has so much, what's it called? Charisma.
Right.
It's so there.
Yes.
And it can take over something. That's how I feel about Shimmer on some things. Next plugin. Goofos, the Intelligent EQ.
Ooh. What is yeah, no idea.
You haven't used it.
No.
It's a good one. It's like another smart plugin.
Okay.
I think it's the best of the intelligent EQs.
Okay.
That I don't know, it does the thing and
what's it called?
Goofos.
Okay.
It's like named after that what is it, like Swedish or Swiss thing. It's good. It's a good plugin.
Great.
Lives on many of my food group buses.
Okay.
Just to like help like clean up stuff. The hardware, the Chandler TG2 preamp.
Haven't used it.
Is
that just like the Chandler preamp?
Yeah, it's like their 1073, like like their most basic preamp.
I don't think I've used it.
It's a good one.
I'm sure I've stumbled across it. Maybe I have, but like Chandler's never really appealed to me for some reason. I'm sure it's just like the branding or something.
They're not like big here.
Yeah.
In America. I feel like in the UK,
British,
probably a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I've used it a handful of times. They sound great. Okay. But it's like, hey, I'm here.
Okay.
Like, this is me.
Yeah, and I like gear that has a thing.
You might like it.
Yeah.
Another piece of hardware, the Dangerous Music, the BAX EQ.
Yeah, I like those. Oh, wait, Plug.
There.
Plug.
You have to get it in.
Plug.
I've never used it, but do you have one or you've just used it?
No, I think I've just used it. I think Josh Goodwin used to have them.
Right.
And they're nice. I'm a big fan of like those types of EQs. Right. There's this. Do you use any of the Acoustica stuff?
Yeah, I'm on Magic Flow.
Do you use the Coral Baxter EQ?
No, is it good?
It's free. Yeah.
It's free.
It's so good.
Okay.
It's such like a nice like the high shelf on it, the low pass on it is just so smooth and like just a really transparent curve. Like it seems like no resonance. Like it's just.
I wonder if I've downloaded it and I just like hadn't because
you maybe have. It's awesome.
Okay. I got you.
And it's that type of setup.
Are you using it on like Mixbus?
No, just randomly. Just like randomly? If I'm always looking for like a transparent low pass.
Right.
Because I think a lot of times you just get that little like high mid bump or whatever that I personally like hate those.
No,
frequencies.
it introduces phase sometimes.
Yeah, and it's like not quite like a lo-fi approach, but just like it's nice. It's like the high cut on that Magic Flow plugin is unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean the Magic Flow lives on a lot of my food group buses as well.
Yeah.
It's like kind of like something that we didn't get to on this, which we can, is part of my getting bounces done quickly, like quick and loud.
Okay.
And like pop music, mostly for like stuff for pitch and stuff. Where you're like, I just gotta get this out and it's gotta be loud. And Magic Flow is one of those great plugins that helps me get there.
Yeah, I don't worry too much about loud.
Yeah. I only do for like pitch stuff.
Oh, I have a plugin that I think I feel like not many people use it. It's like this DSM V3. I gotta actually see what the name of it. Do you use the Plugin Alliance stuff?
Yeah, I have all the stuff.
Dude,
I know what you're talking about. Wait.
It's like PSP.
Yes.
And it's a weird plugin. It's like a multi-band compressor, but it works differently than like a C4 or something like that. Dude,
I gotta check it out.
This is...
Yeah.
Like, and you gotta be like kind of gentle with it, but what you can do is you can profile the dynamics of like, an entire other track and then like save those profiles. So if you have just a country record where it's like you love just the general feel of like where the EQ's at, you can capture that and then put it on your master. And then it'll just kind of like bring everything in line a little. Or if you have like a vocal stem from a mixed song where you just, that vocal
like
is,
how it sounds.
You pull that in, you like capture it, and then drag it over to the other track.
I gotta check this out.
It's really cool.
Yeah, okay. I love things like that.
Again, and on the master, you like 5% mix kind of thing. Just a little bit.
Yeah, that's
really
what you
nice.
Want. Next one. I'm not many people haven't used this one. The UHE Diva, their software synth.
Oh, dude, I used to use it so much. Yeah. And I still do. I find myself using soft synths less and less and less.
Right.
I rely heavily on that Prophet X. I really like it.
A real one?
Yeah. I think that's probably one of the best sounding soft synths. Like the way the low end holds up on it is, I think that's kind of one of the spots that stick out. To me, like low mids and lows are just like where I find the difference. Like the way those like harmonic interactions or just the way they kind of hold up.
That's when I got my Juno. That was the first thing I realized. Where I was like, oh, this is what hits differently.
Yeah.
On these synths. Where it's like something like high-endy in a synth, it's like, usually
you can get away with that. Yeah.
But when you want that like low bass or like warm pad.
No, really all of the UHE stuff I think is good. I still use like Zebra 2 for a lot of stuff.
It has like fun sounds on there too.
Yeah. Or just like layering some of that in like with a grand piano or something if you just need a little more punch on a part. Like
it's good. Layering, super important.
Yep.
Slate Digital's virtual tape machines.
Haven't used any of the Slate stuff.
Yeah. So this next one we kind of spoke about a little bit earlier, but it's the one plugger unplugged that I'm asking on every pod. CLA vocals.
Oh. Unplug.
Unplug. Yeah. So you're an anti-CLA vocal.
Yeah, there was a time where I wasn't, but I don't like it. It just does. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it does. It does a thing that you either like.
Yeah, and it really feels, and maybe some of this is just mental for like when it came out, but it really feels like a certain time.
Yeah, I know. I agree.
I think it like thins out vocals in a way that I don't really like, and I don't really like. And it's just so rare that I'm going to use the same reverb throughout an entire song. Or
I've never, so I used to use CLA vocals a lot, and I've never once used like the reverb or the delays.
Yeah. I mean, just the basic like compressor and stuff sounds good, but I've found other things that do a similar thing that I like better. Like I have a curve on that DSM plugin that like sounds better than that.
There you go.
And I'm like, okay, cool. That's my.
That's your sound.
So I think there's probably a bit of pride there too.
Yeah. No, I think it's like the CLA vocal thing is so funny. How so many people are like, fucking love it.
Yeah.
It's the best. And some people are like, nah, not for me, bro.
Yeah.
It comes down to taste.
Yeah.
Which is what it is. And, I think the reason why I've decided
to use it?
I don't anymore. I did for a long time, especially when I was doing a lot of like EDM top lining.
Yeah.
Where it's like, they want that vocal fucking hyped.
Totally.
And that plugin will get you there.
Yes.
And the second I started doing more like songwriter focused stuff, that plugin went away really quickly.
Yeah, I think it does a good job of getting a vocal clear, like really in the mix.
Yeah.
Where like I do think a lot of the stuff that I tend to do, vocal is forward on top of the mix.
Exactly.
Like,
and it's like when it needs that help, and I'm trying, maybe it's a pride thing, like you said.
Yeah.
It's like I'm trying to
like when you said when you're like not anymore, I'm like, oh yeah, I could.
Yeah. Good. No, it was like mostly like, again, like EDM stuff where I was like fighting against these 2-track EDM things. Like I had to get my vocal to come through. And then they ended up like wanting to use my vocal mix every time. So I was like, all right, like
sure.
Here you go. Great. Okay, last one. Last one for our listeners. It's always a plugin that is very, very commonly used.
Okay.
Soundtoys Echo Boy.
Oh yeah, I love it.
Yeah, Plug.
Yeah, Plug.
It's great.
Soundtoys in general.
Yeah.
I can't think of a better value in plugins. Like that Soundtoys is probably like my desert island bundle.
Yeah. My one complaint is that they've made one plugin in the last like 5-6 years.
I like that, the super plate.
Oh no, it's good. I'm not saying it's not good.
Yeah.
I'm saying I want more plugins by them.
I mean, what else do you do? They should have held off a little longer on some of those.
Yeah, I guess so. They're all every plugin they make, I'm just like, yeah, man, like
everyone.
This is
it's
great.
Probably the most used. I think that and like an SSL channel EQ.
Yeah.
Is like on everything.
That's something I like to see from them. Another EQ. I know they already have the SiQ.
I never use it. Does it sound good?
I like it on I use it for one purpose. When I want to bring out like 1 to 3K in something.
Is it like a Pultec style EQ?
No, I don't know what it's based off of, but it only has like 3 bands.
Okay.
And then like the drive knob is cool.
Okay.
But it does like a thing sometimes for like that, like very specific, like, okay, 1 to 3K, that's what it sounds good in. Otherwise I barely reach for it. But which is why I like make another EQ. Something that'd be fun.
Yeah, and like I never really used the like filter free stuff anymore.
Yeah,
it's like rare. That also feels a little dated.
I agree. But Decapitator, I will never not use that.
You ever use that Biome plugin?
No, what's that?
It's like unfiltered audio Biome.
No.
Also in the Plugin Alliance stuff.
Okay.
Fun.
See, I have all these plugins. I just I don't use them.
So that every once in a while, I'll just pull up like, oh, I've never used that, and like the unfiltered audio stuff is really cool.
Yeah, I've used
like a little crazy, but like
they had this like it was like a bass kind of synth
basement.
Yeah, that I was using for a little bit.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, man, I have to.
It's funny too because I also think there's just something to like. Oh yeah, I used to use that for a while. Like, did it get not good? Like, no, I just
got bored of it. Or
exactly
something like that. It was always good. All right, so unfortunately, I've taken up far too much of your time, and we're gonna have to end here. But dude, thank you so much for coming and doing the podcast, and it's been so incredible catching up because like we've spoken throughout the past couple of years, but I haven't seen you in person for a while.
Yeah, so I definitely feel like it's funny because I'm like, I feel like we're close. We haven't seen each other in 5 years, but definitely feel like we're close.
No, because like, we text and Instagram and stuff. And
this has been so fun. I could sit here for far too long, and I didn't even realize it. I'm like, oh, I have so much to say.
Dude, it's like funny where it's like it's been so heartening where it's like every time we have to end, everyone's like, really? Yeah. Like we're nerds. We can talk about this shit forever.
I mean, no more topics. I'm like, we could do that plug or unplug thing all day.
We could have kept going. But dude, again, thank you so much. And we'd love to have you back one day.
I'd love to do it.
And I'll see you around.
Dude, this was awesome.
All right. Bye, guys.